What is up, guys? It's Dan the Man, and today I'm back with round 2 of Chess Zone's June Action Tournament I played this past weekend. And going into round 2, I have a score of 0.5 out of 1. We got a draw against Firat, which was kind of surprising since he offered it quite early. And I thought he had an edge in the endgame, but it turned out that it was just totally even, and it was fine to draw that early, but it was still a little bit surprising. And for round 2, I'm paired against Idan Eshkol, rated 2018, and he's relatively new to chess in Georgia. His rating was, I think, still provisional, but he played nearly enough games to have that as an official rating. So after this tournament, he had an official rating, so he's actually like 2,000 strength. It isn't like variable. And this game is going to be pretty painful to record. It's because I once again achieve a winning endgame, but do not convert it, and as a matter of fact, I get a bad result. So stick around till the end, and as a content creator on chess, I'm obliged to show you all games, even if they are as painful as this one is. So and it's my job to learn from it and prevent mistakes like that from happening again. So enough of that. Let's go ahead and jump into the game. So I have the white pieces, and Idan has the black pieces. So I'd start the game with e4. He goes e5, knight f3, and here he plays the Petrov, knight f6, which I don't see too often, but I like it because it's very simple gameplay. You a lot of the times can do whatever you want here. You can take the pawn, you can go knight c3 to transition into the three knights game. You can play d4, which is a bit of an aggressive line, but very common is to take the pawn, and the common move is d6 to kick the knight away. I go knight f3, he takes back, and here you can again do a lot of things. You can play like knight c3, which is what I did. You can play d3, I think, to kick the knight away again. You can probably play queen e2 to pin the knight to the king. There's a lot of flexibility with this setup. So here I go with knight c3. It's what I do online. The book move is to take. I take with the d-pawn, and this is just a very simple position. Not much happening here, and yeah, so we just developed. This is all theory. Bishop e7, bishop d3, knight c6. Here I decided to be a bit flexible. I play bishop e3. We're both blitzing these moves out, not even thinking. Bishop e3, I'm debating whether to castle queen side or king side, having the options open, not committing right away. So he plays bishop e6, probably having the same idea. And here I decide to castle king side. I thought queen side maybe was a little bit risky because I don't really have any pieces around there, and maybe I'd get attacked, so I decided to castle king side. Although, again, you can do virtually anything sensible and be fine. So here he castles as well. And here, yeah, it's a very playable position. You can do a lot of things. Here I go with knight d4. Again, we're blitzing this out. And here I'm basically just offering a trade, either getting his knight or the bishop pair, or I'll just take back once he takes me. So he takes my knight. I take back with the c-pawn so as to undouble it. And here we didn't even spend more than a minute on time. We each had like 59 minutes here. So we were both blitzing this out because it's not really a complicated position, and the middle game is fairly intuitive and straightforward on how to make progress and improve your position. So after c takes d4, Idan played queen d7. And here I play an interesting move that got him thinking for a long time for some reason. I played the move d5 here, and I thought this was good because, well, I'm advancing into the center. I'm controlling some squares. And if the bishop were to take this, I would play bishop takes h7, discovered check. And once the king takes, I would play queen takes d5. And even it would be a trade. We would each lose a bishop and a pawn. But I wanted him to take because I would maybe weaken his king a little bit. The engine says you can actually take it, and it's barely even better for me. But he got spooked by this, I suppose. And if you think that bishop takes d5, queen h5 to fork checkmate and the bishop, then black can play f5 to block that. So not winning material either. So D5, he spent a long time here and played bishop f5, just which is what I thought he'd do pretty much immediately. So here, after bishop f5, I was thinking about what to do to keep the tension, to trade, to maybe bring the rook to e1. I decided to go with bishop d4 just to activate my bishop, and also maybe bring the queen over here to defend the bishop that way. And also the bishop's pointing at the king, so I thought this was a good move. Very slow game, though. So we played rook f e8. I go queen f3, sort of provoking him to trade so I can take on my terms, which is what happens. He plays bishop takes d3. I play queen takes d3. I have like a 7-minute advantage because he spent a long time on bishop f5. And here, he played the interesting move queen g4, which is good, but I didn't really know what that did. It's kind of like inviting the queen to be kicked out with h3 or something. So I was a bit surprised why he played that and not maybe something else, but it's not like I'm winning or anything. It just looked a bit peculiar. So after queen g4, I just continue playing it slow. I play rook fe1. Here the engine's suggesting to play bishop f8 to offer a trade, but he plays bishop h4, trying to offer a trade that way. And you'll notice that his queen and bishop can easily be kicked away with h3 and g3. And here, apparently, if I play h3 to kick the queen away, I'm +1, but I don't really see how it's +1. Like, the queen just goes back, and I don't really see why it's better for me. So, I played an interesting move. I mean, in a blitz game, I would have played h3, like, immediately, but it's funny. When I spent more time, and I didn't end up playing the best move. I ended up playing bishop c3, and my idea is to play queen b5 and hit the rook on e8 and hit the pawn on b7. And I couldn't have done that before because my bishop would have been hanging at the end of that. Like if I went, let's say, queen b5 here, I was worried about like c6, and I mean, I'm just wasting time here. I have to go back to defend, right? So I didn't want to do that. So I went bishop c3, and I'm trying to go queen b5, which would be nice. So, like, the thing is that black can allow it, according to the engine. Like, if he plays a random move, even though I go queen b5, apparently black's okay by putting the rook on b8 like this, but this just looks really, very clumsy. Like, look at black's rooks. They're, like, really silly on the queen side like that. So that didn't look human to do, although the engine says it's playable, but it looks very clumsy position for black. So I didn't. He got scared of that and played queen d7 to prevent that. Here I play rook e4, basically slowly improving my position, and I'm preparing the double rooks. And if he were to take my rook, I would, which he did in the game, I would take like this, and he takes on my terms, and not only do I get the open file, but I hit his bishop with tempo, and next move I'm going to play rook e1 and just control the open file. So here I should have retreated with bishop to e7, and again, I'm having a slight edge here. I'm playing this position really very accurately. So he spent a bit of time, and he played queen e7, and this got me thinking for a little bit. I was thinking about whether to trade queens, or defend my queen with rook e1, or move the queen away. I was juggling those three options in my mind. Now, let's go into one line. If I had just traded normally, it's an inaccuracy. Okay, sorry about the red banner. Bishop takes e7, and this endgame is basically totally drawn. Even if I get the open file, black just gets the open file themselves, and it's basically equal here. I have a slight edge, but it's negligible. So here I come up with a better move. I play rook e1, and this is much stronger than queen takes e7, because if he takes my queen now, which he has to, this is very forcing. He has to trade queens here, and any other move he does, he's losing, and I'll show you why. He almost played the move he in the game almost played rook e8 here, which looks very logical, because you're backing up your queen with his rook, but here I can be winning a piece because of queen b4. And black just has too many problems to deal with. Their bishops still hit, their queen is attacked, their rook is hit as well. I also defend the back rank sufficiently, so there wouldn't be any queen takes e1 stuff. So there's no back rank tactics. I'm hitting all of black's pieces, and black can't hold them all together. And if he goes queen d8 or something, I would just trade and take on h4. So he's losing a piece by force. And if instead of playing queen d takes he plays queen d8 to defend the back rank and keep the bishop defended, then I would have played g3, bishop g5, and that would just bully the bishop. h4, bishop h6, g4 according to Stockfish, g6, and queen d4, and black has really bad problems on the dark squares. So he's essentially forced to trade queens. But again, he's trading on my terms because I would get the open file and gain tempo on his awkward bishop on h4. So this is good for me. So after rook takes e4, he played bishop g5, and I'm better in this endgame because black's bishop is a bit of a target, and I have the open file. So here I decided to go with f4 just to kick the bishop away again. I was thinking about whether h4 or f4 are better, but turns out both are almost equally as good. Alternatively, I could have played rook g4 to try the lineup on his g7 pawn and hit his bishop, but I instead go with f4. Bishop h6, he doesn't really have too many options. If he went bishop f6, I would be more than happy to trade and double his pawns. And bishop e7 would hang the bishop, bishop d8 would hang back rank mate. So he doesn't really have too many options with that bishop. So bishop h6, I go g4, threatening to trap him. He goes g6 to create some space. I go g5, just further cramping him. He goes bishop g7, and here I went into a long think again. I had 31 minutes, and he had 29 minutes. And here I was debating about what to do. Whether to trade the bishops, whether to play rook e7 and invade. And I'm very happy that I found the best move here to keep the advantage. I'm plus 1.2, but only if I find my move. Any other move, it drops it to equality. So I spent like a few minutes here, and I'm very proud of myself that I managed to find this move. It shows that I understood the position. And that move is bishop to f6, and this is a very cool move. It's because I'm keeping the tension, but also I'm happy if he takes me, right? And I'll show you why. So if I had traded bishop, this is what I was thinking originally. If I had played bishop takes g7, king takes g7, and trying to invade on the second rank to win his pawns, then he goes rook c8, and although his rook is passive, his king is just going to kick my rook away next move, and I have to leave the 7th rank, and I won't be gaining anything. So by playing bishop f6, what I'm doing here is that if he takes me, I take back with the pawn, and I would always be defended. The pawn on f6 that takes back will constantly keep my rook defended, so I can just keep it on the 7th rank forever. And if he doesn't take me, which is what he does in the game, he plays king f8, then I go rook e7, and again, I'm constantly defended, so I don't have to worry about getting kicked away, moving my rook away. So he plays rook c8, and I don't have to worry about losing a rook because I'm always defended. My bishop defends my rook, and if he trades the bishops off, my pawn would take, and I would always be defended. So I'm just trying to keep black's pieces at bay here. So he plays rook c8. I'm plus 1.8 merely because black's pieces are passive. So I play king f2, just getting the king in the game. He goes a6, sort of waiting. And here, I was wanting to play king e3, and it's a good thing I didn't do it. I was wanting to go here, but I saw that this would drop the advantage because black can trade all the pieces off and play rook e8. And he's threatening to trade the rooks off into a king and pawn endgame. And because my king's on e3, my rook is pinned, and I can't take this pawn because I'm pinned. So I didn't want him to liquidate like that. So then I didn't even think this endgame was better for me. So yeah, that's why I didn't play king e3. I instead try to advance on the queen side. I go with a4. He goes b6. I go b4. Apparently king f3, but I don't really see why that matters. Why the king has to be in f3 versus f2. He takes the bishop now. Again, I was still happy because even though I have the doubled pawns, my pawn on f6 is restricting his mobility a bit. So here after g takes f6, Idan played c6, and as you can see by the engine, I'm totally winning in this rook endgame because black's rook is passive. But he is trying to open his rook up with some activity, trying to open the c file a bit. Now here, I should have played either rook b7 or rook a7. I should have went to attack either of the queenside pawns, and it kind of makes sense why. It's because I want to try to promote the a and b pawn. I want to try to promote those guys. So let's say I go rook b7, right? So with rook b7, c takes d5, rook takes b6, rook takes c2, king e3. I'm also threatening checkmate, by the way, with rook here, so he has to deal with that. King e8, and then I would take this a pawn, and because I got rid of the pawns in front of mine, these two pawns are going to overwhelm black. Same thing with rook a7. If I had went here, same purpose. Even though he takes this, I take one of his pawns blocking mine. He takes the check, I move up. He goes king e8 to get out of checkmate, and then I don't know why it's popping this up so often. And I'd play rook takes b6, and again, I cleared out the two pawns obstructing mine, and white's pawns are just going to be too much for black to handle. But I instead played rook d7, which isn't great. I'm going after the wrong pawn, but I'm still better, don't get me wrong. So I went rook d7 here. He plays c takes d5, and apparently the stockfish is saying don't even take the pawn, which is kind of weird. So I play the human move, rook takes d6, and now it's back to drawn. So he plays rook takes c2 check, king e3, and again, I thought I was happy here because I'm threatening a checkmate with rook d8, and I'm also hitting his pawns. So, but the engine says it's drawn because after king e8, even though I grabbed his pawn, he actually finds a very accurate move. I thought maybe he would take on h2 or something else, or maybe go rook b2 to try to keep my rook glued. But he plays the very accurate rook c4. And he's also stopping my king from advancing and also pressuring my queenside pawns. So this is a very accurate move of his. And here I didn't really know the eval. I thought I was still better here because I have the 2-on-1 and the king is kind of bad. But the engine says it's drawn. So here I go b5 after some thought. We each had 25 minutes here. And I was trying to create a passer. And here the engine's saying to take on b5. And I was still happy because I'd get a passer on b5. But here he tried to close the position. He played a5. This is kind of resembling the game against Ruben, where he pushed a5 in that king and pawn endgame. So I was kind of having flashbacks of that when he played that. And here I only have one winning move. And I wish I had found it. I'm winning again. I need to really work on my endgames. So I'm winning if and only if I play the move rook b7. This is the only move to be +3. And it's just cutting the king off. That's the obvious point. And we can go into a couple lines. If rook takes a4, then I would play... I don't know why it's popping this up. Rook takes a4. I would push to b6. He would go rook b4 to try to stop me. And then I would play check. This is the only move again to win. And if he plays king f8, I would go rook a7 and threaten checkmate and queen my pawn. So this is the better move, king d8. And then I would play b7, and here black's just totally losing because my pawn is too much of a threat, and I'm going to gobble all his pawns on the second rank, right? So even if he tries a4 to try to queen his pawn, I take his pawn, and I have a passed f pawn as well, so this is just totally over for black. Also, if we played rook b4 instead of taking right away, then I would play check again, king f8, rook a7, and I'm threatening the checkmate and also hitting his a pawn, and he has to guard the checkmate, and then I would take his a pawn and I would have the two passers on the queen side. So very instructive. I should have cut the king off, but I instead let the king out of his little box here. I play rook b8 check because I was trying to maybe swing over here or over here and try to win his pawns, but this is a mistake. It's back to drawn now. So a bit annoying that I threw this again. Rook b8, king d7. I go b6. I still thought I was winning here because, look how strong my pawns are. I go b6, and again he throws the game away. Rook takes a4, and this is probably the third or fourth time I am winning in this endgame. So this is really annoying that I didn't win. So after rook takes a4, I actually do find the best continuation. I play rook f8, trying to make space for my pawn and also hitting his f7 pawn. He plays rook b4, and here I hallucinate. I should have played b7, but I was worried that if rook takes f7, the king and pawn endgame wouldn't be winning. But I totally forgot that, like, I still thought that black's f7 pawn would be on the board if I went into that. But I just took it last turn, so it wouldn't have been. So, like, if I went b7, rook takes b7, rook takes f7, because I cleared the pawn out of the way, I have my f pawn is free to promote. I don't know, I didn't see that for some reason. I think my mind does weird things when I play chess for a long time. I don't know. I can't really explain to you how I missed that detail. And I instead play rook takes f7 check first, which throws the game back to drawn. So yeah, my mind does weird things like this sometimes. So rook takes f7 check, it's back to drawn. He plays king e6. I go rook takes h7. He wins my pawn. And now I realize that I probably sold because, well, I lost my queenside pawns, and black is stopping my f-pawn. So even though I push it, he just goes king e7, and I can't make progress. And if anything, black's better because they have an a-pawn that's passed. Okay, so king e7. I go with king d4, and I'm just trying to get my king closer into the game, attack his pawn. He goes rook b5 to defend. I go rook g7. I didn't really know what to do here. I was still thinking I had an edge because I'd win his g-pawn and then I'd have a passed f-pawn and an h-pawn now that the g-pawn would be gone. But he played rook b6 to defend again. Here I decide to take. It's still drawn according to Stockfish. And here he plays rook a6. And at this moment I was getting a little bit worried that, oh wait, he put the rook behind the pawn. How am I actually going to stop his a-pawn from queening? Like, this was not good. And I was thinking about f5 here, which is what Stockfish is suggesting, with the idea that if he takes, I would bring my rook back to g1 to stop it. But I didn't do that. I played king c4. I thought I could have time to do this move, which I can. So he keeps motoring the pawn down the board. And here, apparently, I was trying to find a way for my rook to come back and stop his pawn. Here I only had like 10 minutes on time, so time was limited. So apparently I should have promoted, giving the pawn up, and if king takes f8, which is forced, then the Stockfish is saying to stop the pawn like that. And apparently this is drawn, but I instead go with rook g8. I thought this was almost the same idea because, well, I'm just going to bring my rook over here and down here and here once he takes my f7 pawn. So, but apparently this is a losing move, because after king takes f7, rook b8, king f6, this line is just worse for me. I think it's because, I don't know, the rook is, like, that's a less efficient way to get back or something. I don't know, this line is losing compared to promoting. So, he goes king f6. I'm losing here because I have to deal with the a-pawn, and then black's king is just going to go down here and eat my pawns. So, after king f6, I go with rook b2. I probably had like 8 minutes here, and he had like 20. So I was running low on time as well. So I went rook b2. He went king f5. I went rook f2. I could tell that this wasn't winning. If anything, it was losing. Also, I forgot to show you this. If I was, instead of rook g8, I was thinking about king b5 here to hit his rook on a6 and the pawn on a4. But I saw that this didn't work because my idea was, okay, if the rook moves away to keep the pawn defended, I would take on g6 and get back. But I saw in my mind that he can play a3 in this position. Brilliant move. And because of this weird setup, king takes a6, a2. And this is really weird stuff because my king is my king is on the a file blocking my rook. Black's g-pawn is in the way, so I can't teleport down here. And if I try to, promote and give space for my rook to come over here, again, my king's in the way. So even if I go rook a7, he still promotes because my king's in the way. This is ridiculous. That black has everything set up in the right way to prevent me from stopping his pawn. So this was really weird. Also down here, I was, instead of rook b2, I was thinking about king b5 again here. But again, he can play the move a3 again. And because of this geometry, I can't take, because if king takes a6, he goes a2. And again, my king's on the a file, blocking my rook from stopping the pawn, and he's also controlling rook b1. So, wow, this is just a really interesting position. So I realized that I can't go king b5. So I went rook b2, he goes king f5, I go rook f2, desperately trying to hold this position. He goes king e4, rook a2, king takes f4, and I try to go rook a3. I thought maybe I'm holding because at least I blockade the pawn and the king can't come down the rank, can't come down to the third rank. He plays g5. I probably have like 3 minutes here. I was scribbling my notation. I go h3 just to maybe stop g4 at some point. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. I'm still losing. Rook e6, king d5, rook e5 check, king c6. I'm maybe trying to come over here and win his pawn. He goes rook a5. I go king b6 and I thought here it was drawn because I'm just going to keep attacking black's rook repeatedly. And once black's rook leaves, I would take on a4 with check and hold. But apparently Stockfish is saying rook e5 is winning for black. But he went rook a8. I repeatedly attack his rook, and I thought this was fine because I would just take with check once he moves the rook away, which is what happened. He plays rook e8, and now I'm back in the game. This is drawn position. So I play rook takes a4 check, rook e4, and it's actually, even though it's drawn, it's still kind of hard because keep in mind, I only have like 2 minutes to draw this, and he has way more time and he is in a better position because he's also just threatening rook e3 to win this pawn, and I can't defend it. So Stockfish is saying I have to go either rook a6 or rook a8 with the idea to defend like that. So I can show you a line. Rook a8 is one move. If he tries to win my pawn, I would go rook h8 and defend. King g3, king c6, and even though it looks like, you know, you're losing your pawn here, you go rook h5, only move to draw, and you're hitting black's pawn as well. And if they try rook g3 to hold, then that doesn't really do anything because you just move your king down here. If they ever take this, you take on g5, and it's rook versus rook. So you would just slowly get your king back and stop black's pawn. But under low time, like with like 2 or fewer minutes, I play rook a5, and this is losing again. My idea was to try to stop the king from coming here to win my pawn because I would take on g5. But this doesn't work because he goes rook e3, he attacks the pawn that way, and I can't defend. I can't go over here to swing my rook over because the pawn's here. That's just why I should have went rook a6 or rook a8. So I play check out of desperation. King f5 is the only king move to to win. Rook a5 check, king g6, king c6. I realize that the pawn is a goner, and I try to, do something. I try to get in front of the pawn maybe. Still not resigning. King d5, rook e3, very good move, cutting my king off from stopping the pawn. I still try to persist a bit. King d4. Here I had like a minute on the clock. This was very limited time. Rook e8. My notation looked like chicken scratch. Rook a3. He plays g4 here. I go rook e3, and I was trying to get my king over here. Once the rook can't trade. If the rook trades, I saw that this was going to be a drawn king and pawn endgame because king takes e3, king g5, king f2. You get in front of the pawn, and this is drawn. So king h4, king g2, and this is a drawn king and pawn endgame. You just go back and forth, right? So I was hoping he'd do that. I was trying to challenge the rooks, but he went rook f8. I try to get closer. Rook e4. He can't push because there'd be a fork. So I'm trying to be a bit tricky here. But he just plays king g5, king e3. He just pushes the g3. Rook e7. I'm trying to come around here. I'm not giving up yet. He goes king g4, rook g7 check, king h3, rook h7 check, king g2, and this started to resemble the Lucena position. Rook h4, king g1, king e2, g2. And for you guys experienced in rook endgames, you would recognize that this is the Lucena position, where the king is blocking the promotion square, and the technique is to build the bridge here with a, let's say I went like, to build the bridge here with rook here. So, let's say I played like a random move, rook h5. That the technique here is to check, and if once I go back, you build the bridge like this, and this is the way to do it. Something like that. And basically, whenever the king gets out in front of the pawn, you can block with the rook. If you want more explanations on the Lucena position, I suggest you watch a video on it. But this is the way to build a bridge, basically. And I could tell this was resembling a Lucena position, and this was losing. So I played rook h7. He played check. And here again, if I had went like king d2, he just builds the classic bridge, and I can't do anything about that. So, yeah. Rook e8 check, king f3, king f1. I try to threaten checkmate, which actually isn't even checkmate because he just blocks. And I resign here. And I was very frustrated because I knew I was winning that rook endgame. I had like 3 or 4 chances to do it, but I couldn't do it, and it's just bad technique. Really bad technique. And if you look at the accuracy, I deserved to win that game. 81.3, and he had 83.4. You can see the eval was saying I was winning like a few times. So I was pretty upset that I didn't win this game, even though I should have. Just goes to show that I'm kind of mid at endgames, and at this point I should create a series about how I don't win endgames that I should win, because this has been like the 3rd or 4th game recently that I've achieved a winning endgame, but I failed to win it. So yeah, pretty bad game here. But the bright side is he was higher rated, so it's okay, and we'll try to shake it off. So we have a score of half out of 2. Didn't really have too much time to recuperate here and clear my mind, so I was kind of on tilt after this. So if you guys like this game, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, and have a great rest of your day or night. Bye.